Hi everyone, and I'm here to talk with you about Victober 2024. Hi everyone, I am delighted to be here to talk with you all about the details for Victober of this year. It will be the 9th Victober, which is very exciting. And in case you are new to the concept or the event of Victober, it is an abbreviated way to say Victorian Literature October. And so it is a month-long celebration of all things Victorian literature. And so Victorian literature, what makes it qualify as that is something written by an author from the UK between the years of 1837 and 1901. And if you want to participate or are intimidated, all you need to do to participate is to read one piece of Victorian literature, whether it be a poem or a novel, a full novel. You could do a play, you could do a children's story, a fairy tale that was published then. There's many options. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to start with these big, thick novels, doorstop novels, which I love those as well. But if you're wanting to kind of dip your toes in and feeling intimidated, that's all you need to do to participate in Victober. We do have some completely optional prompts. So these are here if you want them, if they can enhance your Victober reading experience, but we don't at all want them to feel like an obligation. There are going to be 4 hosts this year. Katie from Books and Things, the creator of Victober, then myself, Roz from Scallydandling About the Books, and Marissa at the channel Blatantly Bookish. And we are really looking forward to telling you about our prompts. So we've each created one prompt, and then there's going to be a bonus prompt and a group read if you are interested. The first prompt that I will talk about is mine, and that is read a book where religion is a component. And I want to thank my friend Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine. I asked over on my Patreon for suggestions for my prompt this year because I hadn't really had any inspiration. And this was a suggestion by Catherine, and I just thought as soon as I saw it, I can't believe this hasn't been done as a prompt before. It makes so much sense because Victorian society was so utterly steeped in religion, and you were outside the norm if you were not a regular churchgoer. And so it is also a really interesting collision then with Charles Darwin and people thinking that you had to pick between either faith or believing in evolution. And so lots of discussion and just heated debate about that in that era. So I think just the possibilities are endless. Now, I will say, I did put this in as a kind of very easy to check off prompt. You can read anything Victorian, and I think it would count for the religion prompt because either the author is going to be religious or the book is going to have religious characters. So it's kind of a easy to check off if you want. But after I have told you about the prompts, then I will give you a list of books that might kind of address it more blatantly if you are interested in exploring that topic more. The next one is Marissa's prompt, and she wants you to read something that was published serially. This was a very common way to publish novels in the Victorian era, and so interesting to think about reading these novels at a much slower pace than we think of now. And I think maybe some of these books like Middlemarch and Daniel Deronda that really intimidate us, being taken at the pace that they were published, maybe they could feel less intimidating. So Marissa will have some suggestions for that prompt if you watch her announcement video, which I have linked down below. And then Katie's prompt is to read a Victorian book that plays with form in some way. So this prompt will make complete sense once you go to Katie's video, and she's going to give you suggestions for that, and it will just be really helpful. And then Roz's prompt is to experience Victorian drama. So read, watch, or listen to a Victorian play. And Roz is much more well-versed in Victorian drama, and so she's going to have some wonderful recommendations for you. And I do just want to do a little shameless plug because I do think people would be genuinely interested. Over the month of October, to celebrate Victober on my Patreon, I will have a few special events happening. And one of them is going to be a reading on Zoom of the play Charlie's Aunt by the author Brandon Thomas. I've heard excellent things about this play. It's supposed to be very funny. There's a film that was made of it later on, eventually. And so on Zoom, there's going to be some people attending who are just watching the play, and then others who are going to be readers of the different parts. No one is memorizing anything. It's very casual. And I wanted to do this year because last year we read aloud The Prude's Progress by Jerome K. Jerome, and we had the most fun. It was, I think, probably the highlight of Victober for me. We were laughing so hard. So I'm really looking forward to this. So if you are interested in attending a live, very casual play reading, and I think maybe there's a couple parts still free if you were wanting to be a reader, it's going to be on Saturday, October 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So my Patreon is always linked down below in the description of my videos. So if you felt like attending that, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, there's lots of good options for the Victorian drama that Roz will be telling you about. And then we're also going to be having a bonus prompt. Very sadly, this year, we have two booktubers who are no longer with us, and they were, I feel, vital to the Victober experience. They put up such wonderful, interesting content during Victober, and there's definitely going to be quite a gap and a hole without their presence for Victober this year. So it's very sobering to think about, two fewer creators out there during Victober. And the first is Jennifer Brooks, and her channel was the name Jennifer Brooks, and she had such enthusiasm for the Victorian literature that she was enjoying. And I really always enjoyed getting to hear her thoughts. Even when we felt really differently about books, she was so wonderful at very eloquently explaining what she thought about a book and her experience with it. So in honor of Jennifer, for our bonus prompt, we wanted to honor Jennifer Brooks, and her favorite Victorian author was Wilkie Collins. So reading anything by Wilkie Collins could cover the bonus prompt. And then we also wanted to honor Alice from the channel Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Alice loved mysteries. And so she loved reading mysteries from all sorts of eras, and that included Sherlock Holmes stories and novels by Arthur Conan Doyle. So the other part of the bonus prompt is if you wanted to read something by Arthur Conan Doyle. We really wanted to honor these ladies, and they are going to be so missed during Victober and just in the upcoming years on BookTube. It's really, really sad to think about BookTube not having them anymore. So the bonus prompt, if you wanted to read something written by Wilkie Collins or something written by Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, by Arthur Conan Doyle, I haven't typically enjoyed the Sherlock Holmes full-length novels as much, but the short stories I really love, and my favorite by far is The Speckled Band. So if you wanted to know my favorite of the short stories, it's The Speckled Band. There have been lots that I have enjoyed, but so far The Speckled Band tops them all. And then for Wilkie Collins, I have 4 novels that I think are just wonderful. Wilkie Collins is especially great for spooky season. He just has wonderful atmosphere in his books. So the first is very iconic, needs no introduction, and that is The Woman in White. But I will just say it's about 2 sisters who are kind of helplessly thrown into the hands of corrupt men, and kind of how they have to try to live a fulfilled, happy life despite this. And then the other one is Man and Wife, and this involves a very obscure marriage law where if it was declared in public in Scotland that a couple was married, they were declared legally married. Just by saying that, you were declared legally married. And how this makes things really complicated for the lives of several characters. Their lives are all interwoven, and this has one of the most haunting endings to it. It's such an explosive kind of reading experience. And then the next one is The Moonstone. This is especially fun for autumn as well because it's a mystery. There's a moonstone that goes missing, and what makes this book a really fun reading experience is that it has multiple narrators to it. So I hope that maybe you would be interested in trying The Moonstone, and if not, there's also The Law and the Lady, where there is a newlywed couple and the wife finds out part of the details about her husband's past, but she needs more information. She is not content with just knowing the amount that she knows. So this book is her mission to find out all of the details that she can about her husband's past and try to decide kind of what she thinks about him after knowing this. So it is such a page turner, and I could not put it down once I started reading. And then we took a vote on YouTube. I think it was just the YouTube community page and then Discord. And we are going to be reading for our group read The Doctor's Wife by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. So if you tried Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon and you didn't enjoy it, this is a very different departure from that. This is more, it feels more domestic realism, and it's really playing with the tropes and notions about sensation novels. There is even a character who is a sensation novelist, and it very much is poking fun at itself. So it's just really fun how it plays with that. It's also kind of Braddon's response to Madame Bovary, her own version of it. The one thing that I will say, I always like to warn people, is there are spoilers for Dombey and Son in this. So if you did not want to be spoiled in for Dombey and Son, maybe the timing wouldn't work out. But if you don't care about that and you want to enjoy the group read with us, then I'm really excited to hear what others think about The Doctor's Wife. And so, suggestions for my religion prompt. First, there is a missionary that I found out about recently. Her name was Lilias Trotter, and she only has a couple things that were published in the Victorian era. The other things were published post that. But she was a missionary to French-occupied Algiers. And before that, though, she ended up meeting John Ruskin while she was traveling in Italy. John Ruskin was a very prominent Victorian art critic and writer. And he saw her art and he thought she could be one of the great artists of England if she dedicated herself fully. But she really felt the call to go to Algiers, and she felt it needed to be, her art as a career just needed to be a sacrifice that she had to make. So a couple facsimile editions she had sort of devotional books that were published. So this first one is called Parables of the Cross. This is the only of this that I own. I also have a book that is kind of a compilation of her journals, but those were published post-Victorian era. And so it has some of her art in here. And this is, basically she takes beauty that is in art and finds biblical analogies from them and analogies for the Christian life. And so far it's been really beautiful, but I wanted to save it for Victober. So I've only just sampled a little bit. And it's also very short. I think it's around 70 pages. So this could be a really easy kind of short thing. Then Kilvert's diary is a diary written by a Victorian vicar, and it just has some really moving, beautiful writing about kind of the meaning of life and morality and mortality and the beautiful natural landscape that was around where he lived. So just a really escapist kind of delightful read. Then Charlotte Mary Yonge has become one of my absolute favorite Victorian authors. And so any Charlotte Mary Yonge is going to have some discussion about religion and faith in it. The first time I read The Heir of Redclyffe, my eyes were just opened to a writer who could so eloquently write about faith and the refining of one's character and really wanting faith to be this beautiful, delightful guiding light in your life to help not only you, but also others around you, that you can make the world a more beautiful and true and good place by being a part of it. And it's just so beautifully written about in her story. So The Heir of Redclyffe is, I think, my favorite book by her. And it involves a family and their cousin, and a sort of tainted family legacy, and how this kind of how the different characters think about it affecting them present day. Then I also love The Stokesley Secret, which is this sweet, quaint story of a governess and her students, and it's just so charmingly told, and it's very low-key in the plot, but I just love spending time with those characters. Then Dynevor Terrace, which is, I think, probably the most accessible out of her novels that I have read. It involves the French Revolution and also travel to Peru. There is one cousin who was raised in Peru, and when her mother dies, she's sent to go live with her mother's family in England, and it's about her relationship with her cousin and then some of the friends that they know, and it's so charmingly told, and it was just a delight from start to finish. The Three Brides, another one of my favorites, where there are three sons who are recently married, and they all come home to live with the ailing mother of the sons. And these daughters-in-law all have very distinct personalities and temperaments, and they can really clash with one another. So it's kind of them learning how to live in a household together. There's some drama that happens usually in a Charlotte Mary Yonge book. So yes, such an enjoyable read. And then Countess Kate, which is one less picture for me to have to put in the video. So I'll hold up this copy. It's about a very not prim and proper young lady, Kate, who is finds out that she is a countess, and so she has to live a very different life than she is used to, and has some ups and downs through that. And this is where she falls into a fountain in the Crystal Palace. So lots of fun in Countess Kate. And then did I miss any? Oh, Chantry House for October could be fun because it is a ghost story. A family inherits Chantry House. They move in and there is a ghost that they live with. And the resolution to the story is so satisfying and very Victorian as well. And then lastly, Heartsease is about our main character, Violet. So the novel Heartsease is named after her. And she has so many ways that her new in-laws have they've decided about her, and that she is not really strong, and they have no idea why. The son in the family married her. When she comes to them, she is newly turned 16. So she is just a kid who has, been brought into this family, and you get to see the stuff that she is made of. And I just really enjoyed it. There was one character in it that was so frustrating, but it's such a compelling story. Then Anthony Trollope's Barchester Chronicles, they are all about church life, and they involve figures in church leadership as main characters. And you really can't go wrong with these. The domestic realism I love, and I think anybody who enjoys Jane Austen could enjoy Anthony Trollope. And there's usually some romance in them. There's always humor, and there's some kind of gray area villains that are in this series. And it's just so enjoyable. My personal favorite is Framley Parsonage, and I do think maybe you could start this series with Dr. Thorne to see if you like his writing, and then jump back to read The Warden and Barchester Towers. But I know that's probably a controversial opinion. Then another Trollope is the Vicar of Bullhampton. And this, the main character is a vicar, and the big drama in this story is a Methodist chapel that is being constructed right across the street from where the vicar and his wife live. And it's just so funny kind of how the strong opinions the Anglicans and the Methodists have about one another, and it's so funny. Then kind of the anti-religion books that I don't like these books. I loathe these books actually, but I felt like I had to talk about them. If we're talking books that address religion directly, would be Jude the Obscure and The Way of All Flesh. So these are books that I don't think take even-keeled looks at religion. They kind of pick and choose and pick apart the things they don't like. But that being said, they are really interesting looks at it. So if you wanted a more serious kind of I don't know, battering ram approach to religion, those are two books that are there. And I haven't even spoken about The Way of All Flesh because I loathed it so much and I don't even want to get into it. Two interesting books, Daniel Deronda and Reuben Sachs. So Daniel Deronda is George Eliot's novel that explores being a Jewish member of Victorian society and what that would look like. Now, there has been a critique by some that it is a romanticized view of it. So there is a Victorian Jewish author, Amy Levy, and so she wrote Reuben Sachs as a bit of a response. She thought it was just not a realistic portrayal of what it was like to actually be a marginalized member of society. And I have not yet read Reuben Sachs. I want to, but my list of Victorian books is so long, so I haven't yet gotten to it. And then, let's see. Adam Bede by George Eliot. This novel opens up with a female character preaching in a field. And it's just such a departure from most Victorian novels. And it's one of my all-time favorite. I will say this is a very harrowing story. It's based on an event that George Eliot's aunt told her about. And so she made this amazing, powerful novel. But it also has some of the most beautiful and moving scenes in it. The female preacher character, her name is Dinah, and she's one of my all-time favorite characters. Then Aurora Leigh by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. If you're wanting to read some poetry, this is a narrative poem about the main character, Aurora Leigh. And some of the writing is absolutely stunning. It can be a little bit daunting, but I think it is so worth it. Yes, I just loved Aurora Leigh. Then from Elizabeth Gaskell, any of Elizabeth Gaskell could count, but just at first it came to my 4 out of her 6. So most of her novels, Ruth is a fallen woman story. So there's a lot of talk about Ruth's faith in the story. And then there's a character who is a vicar himself. Then Cranford, kind of the church-going ladies in the town and the notions that they have for respectability. It is such a riot, the story of Cranford. Mary Barton, I feel like there's a lot of talk about morality in Mary Barton, and it's such a powerful story. And there's a big spoiler that happens kind of halfway through, and I don't want to give it away, so I'll just say it's such a compelling read. It starts off slowly and then very much builds. Sylvia's Lovers is just another one that really grapples with moral issues and is so powerfully told. And it's one that I'm seriously considering rereading this Victober. I don't know if it will happen, but I'm almost committed to it. Then Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Jane is a person of faith herself, and she very much is open about this as she's telling you her story, and I just admire her as a character so much. I think she's so strong. And then Agnes Grey, another Bronte, but this is an Anne Bronte, and it is a vicar's family. So you're getting to see as they have a change in their financial circumstances, kind of what happens to them. The Perpetual Curate by Margaret Oliphant. A curate was kind of next level down to vicar. And it is, I think, about a year in his life and kind of what the community thinks of him and his relationships with different members in the community, and was just an absolute delight to read. He also has these 3 aunts who are very meddlesome and nosy, and I just loved it. The Cloister and the Hearth. This is by Charles Reade. I read this last year, and it has stayed with me so much. It is about it's inspired by Erasmus's parents. So Erasmus was a 16th century Dutch priest, and Charles Reade was reading about Erasmus and saw that his father was a priest. So his parents were not married. And he kind of took inspiration for this and how could that happen? And makes this beautiful, beautiful, moving story. And it was just so, I can't believe how much it has stayed with me. It did feel challenging while I read it, and I felt kind of bogged down about, 60% through onwards. It felt really challenging to read, but now I am so glad that I did it, and it's one I definitely want to reread. And then lastly, I did want to say that fairy tales contain so much religious imagery. And there was very much a love of chivalry and kind of Arthurian legends. There was a revival for that in the Victorian era, and Spenser's The Fairy Queen. People were talking about it and reading it again. There was even a coin with Queen Victoria portrayed as Una in The Fairy Queen. And so a lot of this, brought a revival of love of fairy tales. And so Andrew Lang released a whole series of fairy books. Not all of them were published during the Victorian era, but I did write down the colors that were: the blue fairy book, red, green, yellow, pink, gray, and violet. So lots to choose from there. And what's really fun about these fairy books is you do have your kind of greatest hits that we're familiar with now: Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast. But there's also a lot that I haven't heard of and I've never read. And so it's really cool. I'm reading through the blue fairy book right now, and just the Victorians know how to write beautifully for fairy tales. It has been a delightful experience. And then also there is a fairy tale book called The Fairy Book by Dinah Craik. And there is an edition that I read last year with illustrations by Warwick Goebel. And my favorite, hands down, in that was The Iron Stove. It was such a, I thought, a romantic fairy tale. And then lastly, if you wanted something really different from your kind of German, French, and Italian fairy tales, Yeats, who most of his books and his poems were published after the Victorian era, but he does have a collection called Fairy Tales of Ireland that was published in the Victorian era. And so Irish fairy tales are really fun and feel quite distinct and different. So I did read a couple of those, and I'd like to read more. And I am just really looking forward to Victober. I know, you probably noticed I have not been on BookTube for much of this year. My health it gets worse and worse. My health is not doing well. So I just needed to step back. It's like all of the mental energy I have kind of gets used now on school with my boys or my health. And I'm constantly trying new things to try to get relief from my symptoms. So I'm really hoping to feel well enough in Victober to kind of be an active host. I wanted to participate in this, but I have been feeling so lousy. I am apprehensive about how much I'll actually be able to do. So I did consider even just not being a host at all, but I thought, well, I think some presence is better than none. So I am going to today film a couple of Victober videos, but it's the end of August. We start school on Monday, and I have not filmed a single Victober video. So it's not going to be your typical Kate Victober year where I have just oodles and oodles of videos. And that's okay, right? We have different seasons in life, and so I would like to upload some. I would love, oh boy, Victober vlogs. Do you remember those? I love putting those up, but just haven't been feeling well enough in recent years. So we're just going to see how I feel in October. I will, at minimum, be uploading posts also, in addition to, I'm trying for 4 Victober videos. That's what I'm hoping for you. And it just takes so much energy now filming. And so yes, updating you on what I'm reading via posts. I would love to do Friday reads or even some live reading sprints, but I'm going in with low expectations. And then if I can do more, that would be lovely. But this is such a gracious community that I know you're all very understanding. And I knew I would have been very, very sad to not participate as a host. So yes, it's going to look different this year. Thank you as always for watching. So I don't know if I'm going to put up anything in September because the school year is about to start. So I think you will just see me back for Victober. So please comment down below with all the Victober excitement and enthusiasm. Everything's going to be linked in the description, like I said, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.